Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trucked Before. This time we're wrapping up Season 1 of The Next Generation. Yeah! We're already done? It was so fast. Yeah, you're right. The animated series seemed a lot longer. It did to us too. It did to you. But we're back. Complete Season 1 wrap-up. We're wrapping it up. So we're about to go to the bonus episodes, and you're going to want to hear those. You're going to want to hear those. A great way to hear some of that bonus content. Hear it all. You're not going to miss anything. Go to Patreon support at patreon.com/IABD. IABDpresents.com. That's where you can hear everything, whether you're a Patreon supporter or not, but you support the network either way. Lots of great slinging tent, if I may say so. But right now, you've been with us on the journey. We're going to wrap it up. The complete Season 1 wrap-up on It's All Been Trekked Before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trekked Before. Your main crew are here again.
Hello.
I'm crunching ice right now for some reason. Sorry about that.
Everybody decided to take a drink.
The worst crew in the fleet.
Let's introduce ourselves with our names now.
This is Steven.
And someone says your name, take a drink. No, Keith.
Jimmy-Jerome. And we are back, still quarantined from coronavirus, to talk about...
Just like the Romulans, we're back.
Just like the Romulans at the end of the season. To talk about Season 1 as a whole. So, first impressions of the season overall.
I think we all talked about it a little bit as we were winding down Season 1, but I think, there aren't a lot of highs that jump out to me from this first season. Like, man, I love this episode. Though I know when we go back and we look at the top 5 or 6, it's like, oh yeah, I really enjoyed those. But I don't think there are a lot of super lows. To say it's better than Season 3 of TOS or the animated series is very low praise. But I enjoyed it, and I really thought going in I would remember more of the episodes than I did, and I didn't. So I feel like that first season I definitely wasn't as in tune as I thought I was, and maybe more pieces will be obvious in later seasons. But it was fun for me discovering a lot of stuff and getting to know this stuff. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was there were a lot of good points. I think the character arcs of everyone and having them spread around was a lot of fun. And as I keep mentioning, I'm kind of doing a rewatch of TOS. And, early on, you've got all that great Uhura's doing stuff. Sue's doing stuff. You got Riley and those guys, all these great other characters that disappear, which is really disappointing. So I appreciate TNG staying on target with that for the most part. So I think it's been fun getting to know the characters. There's been some really cool stuff. And there were some really super episodes, but I'm also always going to have that bias that there's no Balance of Terror, or Where No Man Has Gone Before, City on the Edge of Forever. But I have faith there's going to be stuff like that coming. So
I don't know if there'll ever be anything on the level of City on the Edge of Forever. But in terms of your other episodes, in terms of the other episodes you named, I think we are going to get some really, really strong TNG episodes. But yeah, City on the Edge of Forever, for me, might beat everything in Next Gen, but not everything in DS9. There's one that at least ties it, if not beats it. In my opinion. It's called In the Pale Moonlight. It's my favorite episode of Star Trek, hands down. But there's many great episodes of Deep Space Nine that I think rank City on the Edge of Forever level. Sorry, Keith, your impressions of TNG Season 1.
Well, I would say that this is more like my TOS in a sense. I mean, this is like what I was actually watching when it was on. There have been maybe 1 or 2 episodes where I think I mentioned them at the time that might have fallen through the cracks of syndication, because it isn't like I was necessarily like right at the TV live every night at the same time, like when they're premiering. It was just sort of like throughout the week you would start to see them kind of sprinkle in. Didn't really have that same kind of sense of continuity that we have, and you can binge them on Netflix, which is a nice thing to be able to do. And of course, my memory is spotty anyway, but just pretty much anything that happened to me over anything that happened to me like earlier than like a couple of weeks ago. So, but I'm pleasantly surprised at some of the things that I do remember as they're about to happen. It's a good nostalgic feeling for at least that part of it. And also able to put things together in a way that I wouldn't have been able to at the time, because certainly I wasn't catching on to some of the things that they were doing, either for references to the original series or just because I wasn't an adult, things like that. So it's good to put them all back in a new perspective.
So I grew up on TNG as well. That's mostly what I watched as a kid, except for the original movies, which I loved. Watched those a lot. But as an adult, because I'd seen a bunch of TNG and not a bunch of original, I've watched more original as an adult than TNG. So those are more recent in my mind, even before a rewatch. TNG is special to me, but I feel like DS9 and Voyager to some extent overshadowed it a little bit in my mind. And I don't think this was a particularly strong season. We're not trying to rank every season of Star Trek against every other season, because that would just get ridiculous and hard with recency bias when we're 15 years down the line. But given that,
oh my god,
or nostalgia bias in my case.
Yeah, I mean, given that we don't have any other next gen yet to compare this to, I agree with Steven. If we're ranking it against original series, I would put it below seasons 1 and 2, but above 3 in the animated, but closer to 2 than 3. Like, it wasn't a bad season. I think there were about 8 episodes I really, really liked, which was about a third of the season. And then there were probably about 5, 6, 7 episodes that I didn't care much for. I think there's only 2 or 3 that I would never want to watch again, which is about what we ended up with most original episodes. If anybody forces me to watch Code of Honor again, I might have to cut them. But yeah, I don't think it was bad. I just don't think it was great. And I can see if you hadn't had Star Trek for 20 years, other than a couple of films, that you'd be super excited about it. But to me, I'm just like, yeah, let's get through this, because I know there's better next gen. I know there's DS9. I know there's Voyager. That's all going to be better than what this is. So let's get through it.
And I think we talked about it, the fact that it was the first new non-film Star Trek. It was the first literally Next Generation. It carried some weight. I think that weight was on them. You know, there were so many of these episodes where they made allusions to TOS, which is great. But also I felt we talked about how that kind of held them back in some ways, where they had whenever we said this reminds us of a TOS episode, it was never in a complimentary fashion, or very rarely.
I was going to say the Neutral Zone, the finale, we made a lot of TOS references, but still ranked at number 4 or 5 for the season.
That's true.
So I think that's an exception to your rule.
Yeah, I agree. And but
you're right.
Well, there were also times where they were intentionally referencing TOS tropes, or like the Naked Now. I mean, that sounds like something I would have named it, like Naked Time, now the Naked Now, or the Naked New Time. I don't know. Something.
Now that's what I call naked Star Trek episodes. Or whatever the hell those things are called.
Well, we still had a lot of the original series writers and producers involved in this first season. And I think that's why it felt so much like Next Gen. So much like original. We also did that special episode where we talked about Star Trek Phase 2, which was written with Kirk's crew in mind, but they reused a lot of those scripts for this season. So in many ways, this felt like we're using the leftovers from original series.
That explains a lot, actually. I remember thinking about that for the first handful of episodes of this season, where it seems like they were trying to force them to even do the acting style of original series, about the way the music felt, everything, just the beats they were hitting. And I think by the time we got out of the end of it, it started to seem a lot more like what I would remember TNG feeling like, just from the distant memory of whatever it was like. Everything gets kind of mushed together. It's just later, the later seasons. And I think that that's why Voyager and DS9 stand a bit above it, is because they had the benefit of this. Them working all the bugs out of this before they even got going.
Well, yeah, and I think Next Gen, by the time they were going to season 3, they'd pretty much gotten rid of all the original series people. Bob Justman, DC Fontana, all those people were, Roddenberry himself, really. They were gone by the time you get to TNG Season 3. And I think you'll see a very different TNG in that period, whereas these first 2 seasons were more of a repeat of TOS.
I think of the 3 of us, I probably disliked this the least, maybe. If that's even that's the faint reason. I don't think there was ever any point during this where I was like, this is stupid. I don't like this. Or I felt
even during Code of Honor? Come on, Keith.
It was funny for certain reasons. I'm not saying that it's like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm just saying that it wasn't like I hate this. Not like I'm miserable.
That was the only episode I'm miserable through.
Yeah, I would say, we were talking about, Yeah, I don't think there were very many I hated. There were moments where I rolled my eyes, but that's
right.
There are moments. But I thought for the most part, for a lot of the episodes that I didn't love were adequate. They did what they needed to do.
Conversely, in TOS, I would zone out in different ways, and I think there's just something, I guess, modern sensibilities. It just seems like the pacing improved to the point where I didn't zone out in the same way that I would during a bad TOS episode.
Well, I think part of that is the ensemble aspect of TNG, whereas, like Steven brought up, in the very early episodes, and it happened again at the beginning of season 2, we got so much development for those side characters, but then by a third of the way through seasons 1 and 2 and all of season 3, it was really Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and then everybody else.
Yeah.
And granted, in the movies, they got to do a little bit of funny stuff. I do think, and this is going to be an unpopular opinion with Steven, I do think overall, this is a stronger cast. There's a great amount of charm to the original cast, and I really love them. But I think the acting is a little bit better in this from our leads. And I think, and part of this is the writing, but I think the leads get developed so much more, and more characters get developed. I don't know. I dig the ensemble, and I feel like it was to the show's benefit that they didn't just stick to 3 and had all these great actors to develop beyond them.
I'm going to go so far as to say that I would say that a lot of the credit is due, again, to the side of the times. I mean, the way things are, actors are trained differently by then, or by the late 80s, and they would have been in the classical form, and also the writing, certainly. I mean, they wouldn't let them do the things they were doing on this series, so what can you really do?
Side of the Times also came out the same year this date.
Now, I will say, if you pick Shatner... If you put Shatner, Nimoy, and Kelly against any 3 Next Gen actors, Shatner, Nimoy, and Kelly might win. But if you take the ensemble versus the ensemble, I think TNG edges them out.
It just seems like they have a certain kind of like a more rigid style to them that would probably come across no matter what the character is what I'm saying. It's a different kind of...
Who would be the big 3 for TNG? Riker, Picard, and Troy?
Data. No, Data.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
I think they may have intended it to be Troy or Crusher from the beginning, but it ended up being Data.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, having Troy and Crusher as your 4 and 5 lends those 2 I think are great, especially Gates McFadden.
Well, then Geordi and Worf.
Yeah, that's what
I'm saying. It's got a deeper bench. I love Sulu and Chekhov and Scotty, but they were all very one note.
Yeah.
And
Uhura was the only one of the supporting characters that really showed depth.
Yeah, and I think that's more of a writing thing, but yeah. So I think that makes sense though. That we never really got to see what they could do. I did see George Takei in an episode of Party Down the other night. He was great.
Great show.
Yeah.
And then we had Wesley, of course, too. If we're talking the main cast. I thought the one glaring thing they struggled with in this first season was TNG had just as hard a time using female characters as the original series.
Mm-hmm.
Just as hard a time? Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think Crusher's the only one that came through. I think they really poorly used Yar and Troy and guest characters.
I think it was, and maybe this is, again, sign of the times.
It's still the 80s. I mean,
R.I.P. Prince. Yeah, it was 87. Yeah, but I think in the original Star Trek, it was like, there's going to be a beautiful woman every week, and like we said, Uhura has more depth, and even Yeoman Rand has a personality. She's not just a good-looking blonde, and then eventually...
And Chapel.
Chapel, yeah, those guys kind of disappear. They get some, like, Chapel gets moments, and Uhura gets moments here and there, but it's not as consistent. It's not an arc. It's not as consistent. So I think that completely makes sense. And although there were some beautiful women guest stars in this season as well, I shouldn't discount the beautiful women of TNG. But it was just completely different way, I thought. But you had main characters that were more integral. They didn't have moments every 6 or 7 episodes.
It's really sad to me that 2 of the 3 leading women didn't return for season 2. And I think that's a testament to how poorly they were written. I do think
Crusher... So Crusher doesn't come back?
And Yara. Jerk.
Oh my god.
No, and I think Crusher was better served than Troy, so it kind of surprises me that Crusher's the one that bowed out while Troy came in.
I do too. I know we talked about it, and yeah, I'm with you. I wouldn't think you at the end of this like, oh, Troy's not coming back, because yeah, I thought Crusher got some great stuff.
And I think Marina Sirtis thought the same thing, that Troy wasn't coming back. And I do think they get better with dealing with Troy as it goes on, and Troy gets more to do. And Marina Sirtis is a talented actress, and they just need to give her material. Like I said, I will get to season 2 very soon. I really like Dr. Pulaski as much as I miss Crusher, but I'm excited when Crusher comes back in season 3, and I think she continues to have good material all the way through. So I just wish she got more of it. But yeah, I do think in DS9 and Voyager, and I haven't seen enough of Enterprise to judge it, but in Discovery, they're a lot more gender balanced than they are in TNG. So it's disappointing to me that the female characters weren't better served in season 1.
Yeah.
Yep. Once again, sign of the times.
I guess, but I mean, Next Gen tried though. They added more.
I'm going to start saying zeitgeist instead, I guess. Otherwise, it's going to keep being a Prince reference.
I mean, it's true. Only a third of the main cast at the beginning were women, but it felt like they were trying more to balance it, and they just failed to do it. And maybe that was because they still had the writers from the original series that were minimizing the women. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I would say that probably yes. I mean, there's only. I mean, you saw the original series, what they thought they were doing. I mean, certainly for the 60s, they were accomplishing quite a bit, and they were trying, but we would always have to use the disclaimer, they were trying in their own way or within the limits of what they could do. And that's not something you can get rid of very easily. Even, I mean, you've been around people who are older than us, certainly. You know how they feel about certain kinds of things.
You were the oldest 2 people I know.
So yeah, they don't necessarily change something that systemic. They wouldn't even be able to see it with their. I mean, and there weren't really even good examples at that point. I mean, they didn't really get to, I think, strong female characters until like like late 90s.
Well, DS9 premiered in the mid 90s, and it had strong female characters from the get go.
Yeah,
I mean, to bring it back to the Romulans and Joanne Linville, like I always do, she's a captain of a Romulan ship. But that said, Kirk and Spock end up outwitting her, and so. I mean, that doesn't make her necessarily not strong because they defeat everybody. But that said, I think that's a great step. But
I mean, it's kind of shocking they let them put Joanne Linville in that position when they wouldn't let number 1 on the bridge, when they, demanded. I mean, the fact that they had a black woman on the bridge was shocking to a lot of people.
And I wonder how much it changes if number 1 is the main character. I don't know what we're talking about at this point if that happens. But
the rumors are swirling, and I don't want to get it too far ahead of ourselves, but I've heard now that they are greenlighting the Pike spinoff of Discovery, which will star Pike, number 1, and Spock.
I'm on board for that.
So we'll finally get a number 1. It won't be Michelle, it'll be Rebecca Romaine, but she was great in Discovery Season 2. Yeah.
Well, I for one can't wait to see Zachary Quinto again. I think that he's probably the best Spock you can get for the money. So
Ethan Peck will make you forget all about Zachary Quinto. Ethan Peck is much better.
Speaking of which, Colleen and I watched like the first 40 minutes of Star Trek Beyond the other night. I love that. I love Star Trek Beyond. And she also had the opinion. Well, actually, this was not an acting opinion. This was I think Nimoy's hotter than Quinto. And I agreed with her, but I still like Zachary Quinto. But
I like Quinto, and I think he was. I mean, I don't know. I have trouble picking out a single one of the recasts to complain about. Just overall, those movies aren't great. Yeah. Beyond is great, but the first two sucked. And
I knew the first one. I hate Into Darkness. I hate.
You locked up on me.
Yeah, but Ethan Peck is really good as Spock. I think it's a different Spock though, and that's why it's harder to compare because it's 10 years before he met Kirk, and so he's going through different things emotionally, and he hasn't locked into what he's going to be yet. So he's a little more unstable, and it's an interesting version. I mean, he's got a beard. Spock with a beard. Imagine that.
He's closer to the death of his sea lot than he is to a science officer.
Very much so.
That's as crazy. That's as crazy as me with the beard.
Yeah, I mean,
Anyway.
So when we saw Spock smile and laugh in the cage, that is totally believable for the version of Spock Ethan Peck is playing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Anyway, back to this.
By the way, Sign of the Times came out 6 months before Star Trek: The Next Generation debuted. So it was literally a sign of the times.
So let's look at the things that were introduced in this season. The Ferengi, which those are two of our favorite episodes, but I don't think they were great representations of what the Ferengi will become.
That's
Certainly
what I hear.
not.
Yeah.
I
think there were good episodes in spite of the Ferengi.
Yeah. We also met Q and Lore, who are two both big fan favorite popular characters that also were not good in this, and their episodes ranked relatively low.
Yeah, we hated Datalore.
We really did. And Hiding Q, we hated Hiding Q.
Number 12.
Hiding Q was number 20.
Ooh.
And Datalore was number 18.
Wow.
Out of 25.
Man.
Yeah, they were both low. Encounter Farpoint's number 10, so Q got up there a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, we introduced a few of the main staples, but they weren't good yet. And I think that's interesting. That these are characters and races that get much better developed as time goes on. What we didn't get are some of the other big races that are going to be big. The Bajorans, the Cardassians. I know. The Trill. Other races. Other races that'll be, notable in TNG and even bigger in DS9. We haven't really gotten into them yet. We haven't met the Borg yet.
That's going to be good.
Yeah, that'll be coming. We haven't met Whoopi Goldberg as Guinan yet.
Up until Whoopi Goldberg, it sounded like you were just naming turn of the century alternative rock bands.
I am. That's the soundtrack to TNG. Did you not realize that they moved away from instrumental and went more for alternative rock bands after season one?
Actually, Whoopi Goldberg would be a great name for a band, an alternative rock band.
Indeed.
I will say Discovery actually uses modern music sometimes, not just instrumental stuff. They've used Bowie a couple of times, and it's nice. I like it.
Do they use it in the sense that the characters can hear it and they know who Bowie is, or just as a backdrop or something?
Backdrop. And they'll do different arrangements.
I learned from, this is the Star Wars part of this podcast, Star Wars Minute, that J.J. Abrams is a huge Beastie Boys fan.
Yep.
Which made sense that in the trailer for the reboot for Star Trek, a lot of the characters in The Force Awakens are named after Beastie Boys. There's somebody called Il Comunicata. If you look at the alien names, there's a lot of Beastie Boy references. A lot of them I get, some of them I don't. But there's the theory of one of the guys on Star Wars Minute is BB-8 is Beastie Boys 8 albums because they released 8 albums.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So next time you watch Force Awakens or the original, not the original Star Trek, the Star Trek 2009 movie, keep that in mind. Anyway, back to the Star Trek podcast.
So let's look at our rankings here. First, on the annoyance factor. Hang on. I was just trying to figure out. So Wesley's average annoyance scale in season 1 is only a 2.8.
Does he do more terrible things later that fans hate him, or?
I don't think so. I think he's just the smart kid. People don't like smart kids.
It may just be my biased opinion, but I think we're probably a little bit more reasonable than a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And by a lot of people, I mean the mob mentality that kind of exists whenever you have, the internet memes and chat groups of the day and so on. It just, and also we're much later on the perspective of things. We're looking back and it's like, come on, we've seen worse than this. And
also Will Wheaton in 2020, we all love and respect him. So it's hard to be too cruel to him looking back.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think objectively, he's not annoying in season 1. If he's annoying, it must come later.
I think his low point for me was when he falls in the water and he does a whoa, 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 whatever.
So the episode we ranked him the most annoying, and this was a 5.25, was Where No One Has Gone Before, which was the 5th episode of the season.
Is that what the
so
traveler?
It's hard to remember. I don't know. I don't remember.
I mean, it's not that I mean, I see it and I understand why objectively he could be considered annoying for what is happening, but I don't feel as inclined to go, oh God, he ruined the episode. Oh, this is the worst thing ever.
Our guest, Oh, go ahead, Jim.
So he only got over a 3 times in this season. Okay. Where No One Has Gone Before, he got a 5.25. In The Naked Now, he got a 3.5. So the second episode. So both of those were very, very early on. And then in Data Lore, he got a 3.3.
Not that bad.
So conversely, 1 is our lowest ranking. We're not doing 0. He only got a 1 once, and that was Skin of Evil.
Oh, wow.
So he mostly ranked in the 2.5 range.
Okay.
Oh, I apologize. I missed one. He got a 6 in Angel 1.
Would that be the one where Joel Savage was on?
Where the women ran. That's Ensign Joel Savage definitely hated him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope we get Joel Savage back here in season 2. So, I missed that, I guess, because there were no decimal points. I overlooked the 6. But yeah, that was pretty heavy. Huh. I will say we each only picked him as the most annoying character twice this season. Keith and Woo's, yours completely lined up as the same 2 times. You both picked Symbiosis and Angel 1.
Yeah.
And I picked Angel 1 and 11001001. So, looking overall at who we found annoying, Steven, you most often chose Picard.
Huh.
Only twice. Only twice.
Okay.
But you only, other than Wesley, he's the only one you chose twice. You chose Picard in Data Lore and The Battle, both early episodes.
Oh, wow.
Keith, Wesley is the only person you picked more than once.
So this is when we were also given an option of picking the most annoying character in addition to him. He was included in that.
Yes.
I don't know.
You picked him twice. That's the only character you picked twice. So I guess he's your. If we were looking at just data for this, Woos would either pick Wesley or Picard as his most annoying character of the season. But again, most characters are only in one episode, so it's hard to say that.
Right.
Keith, you are a solid Wesley because you picked him twice. That's the only thing you picked twice. I picked Yar 3 times. So Yar was clearly my annoyance. And I agree. Ooh. Yar. Yeah, okay. You're
Sorry.
I'm going to... And as we pick our annoyance...
More, but of course, you guys are frozen, so there we go. Okay, yeah, I can tell he's laughing now.
And while there may be a guest character I find more annoying than Yar, when I'm thinking of the season as a whole, it's hard to pick a guest character as the most annoying character of the whole season. So I'm going to pick Yar as my annoyance of the season. What about you two? Who is your one annoyance of the season? Like I said, I think it's really hard to do that with a guest character, unless you pick Q, who I guess showed up twice.
I honestly can't remember. I know there have been some that were just like... I know it's going to be like one of those Admiral type characters or the Ambassador, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. The Commodore. The Commodore type character.
I would argue for this ranking, unless there is a guest character that was so annoying that they stand out that you remember them, you should pick a lead character. Or at least a reoccurring character. Who wants to go with you?
Yeah.
Because the writing, they wrote it that way.
Yeah. What do you think?
The counterpoint is when Wesley falls in the... It was the pilot episode. That's when he falls in the water.
Yes.
Oh, and I missed this. We all picked Q as the annoyance in Encounter at Farpoint. So, Woos, you actually picked Q twice because you picked him both times he appeared.
He's my... Yeah, I was going to pick him as my annoying person. I know he'll grow on us, but I did like him a lot better in Hyde and Q, even though I didn't like that episode.
Keith, who's your annoyance of the season?
Probably Wesley by default.
Okay.
I can't think of any guest stars off the top of my head right now. I know if I were going through each synopsis, I'd probably find somebody, but just
Yeah, we got to keep this under an hour, so we're not going to go through everybody.
Yeah.
But we all picked 3 different people then. Hugh for Steven, Yar for me, and Wesley for Keith, so that's cool. Let's look at our crushes. Steven, the one you held the longest was Brenda Strong with 4 episodes. I know you said for a long time it was going to be hard to beat her. What do you think? Did anybody beat her, or is she your crush of the season?
Who did I end the season with?
Gabrielle. She lasted 3 episodes. You also had female Khan for 3 episodes, and a woman leaning on Guy in Engineering Orgy for 3 episodes.
I'm trying to remember female Khan. I know that was a joke too. I think wasn't it? She looks
in Haven.
Which episode was she in?
Haven.
That was the shit.
Okay.
That was the one with Deanna being engaged, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I think she was on the ship. Yeah, she looked just like you.
Gabrielle gave Brenda Strong a run for money, but Brenda Strong, she's gonna win.
Brenda Strong's name was Rochella, if you need the reference.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Keith, you missed about half of these episodes with the podcast, so yours is a little less complete. However, your longest run that we have recording of you is Janice Mannheim from We'll Always Have Paris, lasting 3 episodes at the end of the season.
And so she was the one who was coming back, or the one that Picard used to know. Is that
Michelle Phillips? Is that right?
Maybe
Michelle Phillips. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So the actress who played the character, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, she was the wife of the scientist.
Yeah. All right. That.
You want her as your crush of the season?
Why not?
Okay. I am divided because I had Oleana for 5 episodes from Coming of Age.
Which one was she?
She was the Carrie Russell wannabe that was with Wesley in the test. I also had McDougal for 6 episodes, and I really liked McDougal as well. But I think I'm going to choose Oleana as my crush of the season, even though McDougal is a close second. Ranking the episodes, let's look at our least favorite episodes of the season, the bottom 5. Starting with 5 from the bottom, number 21 is Home Soil, where the sentient bits of light tried to kill Data with a laser gun.
Yeah.
Then we had Lonely Among Us.
Wait, I'm sorry, what are we doing right now? Are we just trying to
the bottom 5? We're looking at the bottom 5.
All right.
Yep.
Lonely Among Us was the one with the cat aliens and the lizard aliens were fighting, but they really weren't important because there was like energy stuff happening.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember it.
Good. Then we had The Big Goodbye, which was the Dixon Hill episode.
Yeah.
So sad it ranked so low, but it was really bad.
Yeah.
Was it? I mean,
yeah, it was real bad. Then we had
Right.
When the Bell Breaks, where all the children got stolen, with Brenda Strong.
Oh,
Finally,
right.
The worst episode of the season was Code of Honor.
Oh, you were going descending. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yes.
Yes.
So right now, I remember thinking when we watched it, The Big Goodbye, I would never want to watch again. But it's Dixon Hill. So I feel like there's only 2 of these that I never want to watch again. Because, no offense to Brenda Strong, but I don't want to see When the Bell Breaks again. I'm good.
No, if I want to see Brenda Strong, I'm going to watch Seinfeld.
Sure. Or Desperate. Well, no, you never see her in Desperate Housewives.
Yeah,
You just.
fair enough.
I definitely never want to see Code of Honor again. If I was going to ever skip an episode of this podcast, it would have been Code of Honor.
Fair enough.
Because I'd already seen it like 6 times, and I hated it every time. Do you think those are a good bottom? And how low do you think that bottom is compared to other bottoms?
I think it's pretty good. That bottom 5 seems to fit in with our original, where this would slot in.
Yeah.
With the other seasons we've watched so far. You know, the thing about Code of Honor is like I don't even think that was like a fun, like we had fun making fun of this episode. That was just we hated this kind
Super
of a thing.
racist. Although it may have been the episode that had the most Yar development in it. Looking back.
Well, I mean, ironically, it's also the episode that had the most black people in it. So there's.
That's true. That is true.
Which is I think maybe a reason why I have a trouble of just like flushing completely down the toilet. I just say it's more embarrassing than bad per se. It just, I don't know. There were ways it could have been saved. There's just too many of the little overtones. Obviously, I think the I think the casting reviews revealed some of that as well. So, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
I would watch The Big Goodbye just for that conversation between Picard and the lieutenant at the end. It gets into the whole existence thing, which I think we've seen a lot of shows and movies since then. I watched Inception the other night. That whole movie's about what's reality and what isn't. This gets more into, I think we talked about on that podcast. It gets more into like the episode of Black Mirror, the Star Trek episode, if you will, of Black Mirror, which, what is the sentient being, what is reality and all that. And I feel like it's all in that little conversation that Picard has with that police lieutenant at the end. And I think that part is so great, surrounded by this bunch of blah, nostalgia, blah, who cares? And Case McFadden, of course, looks great. But
if you want to hear our take on that Black Mirror episode, it's on the podcast. We did it as a special episode. But
oh my God.
I agree with you, Steven. So I think we only want to flush 2 episodes down the toilet this season.
What was the other one besides Code of Honor?
When the Bow Breaks.
Oh, yeah. Oof.
Not bad. That's not bad. And then we look at the top 5 of the season, and the final 2 episodes of the season are in the top 5. I think that's saying something too, giving us hope for the future. Mm-hmm. If we're looking at the top 5 episodes, number 5 was The Neutral Zone, the final episode. Number 4 was Conspiracy, which we thought was pretty darn good, and that was right before the final. Then we have The Naked Now, which is the only... I say it's the only early episode that ranked up here, but number 6 was the 4th episode, number 7 was the 8th episode, so we had some early episodes ranked high, but the only one that made it to the top 5 was The Naked Now. Number 2, we had Heart of Glory. Great Klingon episode.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then number 1, our favorite episode of the season was Haven.
Really?
Yeah. I'm surprised, because that's not an episode that ever comes up when we talk about the best Star Trek episodes.
I don't know. I feel like I
mean, it was the one where we met Laxiana Troy, so that's kind of important.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
And that's where the planet of people on the ship where they wanted to go to their final resting place, more or less.
Their Brigadoon that only appeared every 100 years or whatever.
That's one of those episodes where there's a lot going on and it works. So there's a lot going on, it doesn't work.
And Robert Nepner was a good guest star.
Yeah.
I would, in a heartbeat, watch any of those 5 again. I thought that was honestly, the top 10, with the other 5 being going 6 through 10, Last Outpost in the Battle, which were the Ferengi episodes, Skin of Evil, Symbiosis, and Encounter at Farpoint. I would watch those top 10 again in a heartbeat. And that's 40% of the season right there. Overall, there wasn't a single episode that was City on the Edge of Forever type good, or Trouble in Troubles type good. Right. But if we look at that top 10, that's a really solid batch of episodes, even if there weren't any huge standouts.
Yeah.
You had started to bring this up last week, Stephen, and we cut you off when we were talking about the season finale. But who was your favorite character this season? And this can be a lead, somebody that's been developed. Who do you think was the best?
Did I bring somebody up specifically?
You did. You brought up Data as best developed this season.
I think, and, there's the Spock aspects to him, but he's not Spock. He is different. He's got that, whether it's Pinocchio or whatever you want to call it, he wants to be a real person kind of a thing. Whereas Spock's thing was Spock was figuring out his thing, and Data is too. I think Spiner's great. I think, and I think I brought this up before too. I think the humor related to Data is so much funnier and less racist and less speciesist or whatever than the Spock humor was very mean-spirited to me. Whereas the Data humor seems much lighter. And whether the jokes themselves are funny, no, the jokes are funnier too. I think Spock was funny more when he was, Spock was still a funny character and could be humorous, but I just thought a lot of the humor that surrounded him was just, to go back to my rewatch of TOS, Spock comes off the table in The Naked Time, he's on the table and Bones is like, well, if you call that stuff inside you blood, and it's like, there's a better way to ask that question. And Spock doesn't answer it, actually. He's just like, moving on. So, but I think Spiner's great. His character development's great. We see a little bit more of him. He's already showing signs of super Data at times, but I think that's okay because we do have the excuse he's an android. That's a better excuse than being half Vulcan, half human. So I'm curious to see where it goes. That I enjoyed a lot of his scenes. He probably made me laugh more than anyone intentionally. Riker probably made me laugh the most unintentionally. Too.
Ooh, I did like Riker a lot. Keith, who's your favorite character of the season?
I can't pick favorite anything, but I'd be probably leaning toward Data at this point. The problem I'm going to find, I was already finding it during this season. I feel like maybe they're going to do a better job of it as the series goes on, but just knowing, A, being older, and B, having had more experience with newer technology at this point, some of the ways they try to explain things, or how I would imagine emotions or the lack thereof would work for an artificial being. And back then at the time in technology history, and of course the age that I was, things like that were just going to fly right by me, and I was like, yeah, great, whatever. But it's going to be, I think, a tougher road going forward with it. Still, I appreciate the way he comes off anyway. I mean, I'm hoping I'm not going to be too nitpicky about it, but there's still going to be that in the back of my head for certain things. Semantically, as far as like the what Stephen was saying with the real boy thing, like I can't feel anything, but I still care about this, or that kind of thing.
I mean, far be it from me to break a unanimous streak. I think I'm going to have to go with Data as well. There was just so much nuance and complexity built into Data that wasn't immediately present in the other characters. And I think a lot of that wasn't the performance. Brett Spiner just knocked it out of the park. There's a reason he was... I definitely felt like when they wrote this series, they had intended him to be more of a side character than he ended up being. I think he jumped to the forefront, especially in the films, where it's really starring Patrick Stewart or Brett Spiner. I think he jumped to the forefront because he was so good, and he spoke to all of us. I will say, this was not an easy decision because I feel like Crusher, Riker, Geordi all had really strong moments. I don't think this was Picard's season. I don't think this was Troy's season. Clearly. Definitely not Yar or Wesley's season. But if I'm going to name a runner-up...
I'm going to mention Worf.
Well, I was going to just... You jumped ahead of my point. I was going to say if I was going to name a runner-up, despite the strong season Riker and Geordi and Crusher had, Worf would be my runner-up. I mean, I'm a big fan of Worf, and I am biased because he's been in 7 seasons of this, 4 seasons of DS9, 4 movies, but it was the end of the season. You're right, Keith. When they started to develop him, I really became interested in Worf, and I thought Michael Dorn did a fantastic job setting that character up. And
still, it makes me look forward to when he gets to be much more balanced and nuanced as well. But they really started to give him something toward the end. It's not quite there yet, but I feel like he's going to pull ahead for me anyway.
And it's fantastic that Next Generation will only take their characters so far because of the way Next Generation was built. I love that he got to do 4 seasons of DS9 where they didn't have the same constraints and they could explore other aspects of his character as well. That is all I had for things to go over. Is there anything else about this season that either one of you want to discuss before we put it to bed and move on to season 2?
Well, I never noticed that Steven had a cattail before. I feel like that was something that should have come up.
If you don't know what Keith's talking about, you should donate at patreon.com/IABD, where hopefully the video of this conversation will be posted. And then you'll get to see Steven cuddling with a pussy.
And of course, me being completely not camera ready. Steve is perfectly coiffed and just calculatedly relaxed looking. I literally rolled out of bed like 13 hours ago when
I showered this morning too. I've been showering every morning even though I'm quarantined. Well, then let's let season 1 lie. We're going to take our typical 6-week break. We will have a couple of extra bonus episodes coming at you during the break. At least 2 on the main feed and at least 1 on patreon.com/IABD for the $2 donation level. So get over there, become a $2 donor, support us, and then maybe we can buy better equipment so when we're all quarantined at our house, the quality's a little bit better.
That's right.
Just throwing it out there.
I thought for certain you were doing like a segue into the 2 extras of the show each time you were saying that.
An episode of Extras with Patrick Stewart is going to be one of our bonus episodes. I don't know if that's going to be on the regular feed or Patreon yet. I haven't decided. So we'll see. But keep tuning in. Like I said, we'll be taking 6 weeks off, and then we'll be back in, I guess that would put us into June. In June, we'll be starting Season 2 of The Next Generation.
Wow.
Until then, live long.
And prosper.
I don't have anything.
Yar.
Of the season.
Extras.
Yar.
I was just, yeah. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
There it is.
Sigh.
It's All Been Done presents.
Who's got the time?